Okay, today you're going to learn formulas in Excel. So go to Google Classroom, go to Learning Formulas, and download the Learning Formulas student copy. Download it, and then open it. Once you open it, you should get something that looks like this. So we have a budget, a monthly budget. This young person had a $200 monthly budget, and then we have how much they spent for January, February, March weekly. So we're just going to work through these 11 problems. So the first problem says, calculate the total spent for January, February, and March. So the total spent. So this is the total spent. So we need to figure out how much did they spend in January, how much did they spend in February, how much did they spend in March. So the first things first, in order to start a formula is basically a mathematical equation that you create. So 2 plus 3. 2 plus 4 divided by 12. Whatever mathematical equation you decide you want it to be. Now, select the cell that you want the answer, and then you're going to put equals. Okay, wherever you put the equals is where the answer is going to go. So if you put equals over here, the answer is going to be in cell I5. So we want to calculate how much is total for January, so we're going to put equals in C7, and then there's a couple different options. You can physically type in the cells that you want, so C3, and if you notice, once I type it in, it highlights the cell plus C4 plus C5 plus C6. So I can do that and then press enter, and that means I spent $166.80. Okay, the other way to do it is a little bit faster. Press enter, and then with your mouse, just click the cells that you want. So I'm going to click C6, hit the plus symbol, click C4 with my mouse, and it automatically puts the number. So instead of typing it, it's faster if you can click on it, but it's kind of up to you. And then press enter, and I get the same thing. Now, the good thing about Excel is it's here to make your life easier. Now, I can come in here and do the exact same thing. So D3 plus D4, D5, D6, press enter, 195.60. But the easier thing to do that I love Excel for is they have this thing called the fill feature. And if you notice, when I put my cursor in this box, I have this little blue box at the bottom of my cell. If I put my cursor over it, it changes from a white plus symbol to a black plus symbol. When you get that black plus symbol, click with your mouse and drag over to the cells that you want to copy that formula for. And so since we have the exact same formula, we're just adding, I'm going to unclick and it copies that formula. So then if I click on this, it's adding these together. I'm going to press enter. Click on that, it's adding these together, press enter. So you can either fill or you can do it again. Number 2, calculate the total spent for week 1, week 2, week 3, and week 4. So we need to calculate these totals right here. So they're basically going to be done the same way. I'm going to put equals, click on C3 plus D3 plus E3, and then press return. And you can do the same thing again, or grab that fill button until you get the black crosshairs, click and drag down until you get to the end of week 4, and then let go. And it copies that formula down. Okay, 3, subtract the total spent from the monthly budget to find out the amount left over. So we had a budget each month of $200. So we have to figure out how much was left over each month. So in order to do that, amount left over in budget. So I want my answers to go right here. I'm gonna highlight C8, press equals, and you always want to start with the bigger numbers. So I have 200, which is C1, minus the total spent for January. So C1 minus C7 equals, that means I had $33.20 left over. Now, here's the issue that it comes in. If I copy this formula over, I get some red numbers. And the reason being is because, when I copy stuff over, it moves all of my cells over too. So if I click here, it moved these cells over. If I click here, it moved these cells over. So that's what happened here. If I click this, it's going a blank cell minus 195. Or here I have a blank cell minus E7. So that's not going to work. Now, so you have two options. You can either physically redo this, so equals 200 minus 195, or something that you're going to need to learn is there's this thing called absolute cell reference. So basically what I need to do is I need to lock this cell. So that way when I fill it, this one is locked, C1 is locked. And the way to do that is wherever you see the number, so C1, I'm going to put a dollar symbol in front and a dollar symbol in back. So in front of the C and behind the C. That locks that cell. So then when I fill it, it stays on C1 instead of going to D1. And that's called absolute cell referencing. So in case you forgot, put a dollar symbol in front and a dollar symbol behind, and that's how you cell reference. And then you can fill once you do that. Okay, so we're just going to continue on. Number 4, add cells C3 and D4 together. And then we're going to put the answer in these little boxes that I have provided you. So add D3. So start with your equals and C3 and D4 together. So I'm going to click on C3 plus D4, press enter, 114. Okay, multiply cell C4 and E6 together. So I'm going to go equals C4. The multiply symbol is the little star that's above the 8, or on your numeric keypad to the right of your keyboard, it's the one right above the minus symbol. And then E6. So C4 multiplied by E6. Press enter, you get 581. Okay. Okay, number 6, the product of cell D6 and C3 minus E3. Now there's a lot going on here. First of all, product means multiply. Okay, so anytime you see product, so an 8 product, that means multiply. So this is where, if you're doing a formula, you kind of have to know order of operation. Sometimes it doesn't matter, and sometimes it does. So I always say it's safer to put it in and do order of operation than it is to hope that Excel gets it right. So we're going to start with an equals. And you remember order of operation is please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So so we want to add D6 and C3 together. Wait, no, we want the product of D6. Oh, okay, the product of D6 and C3 and then minus E3. So we're going to put D6, we're going to multiply that by C3, and then we're going to close our parentheses because we want them to multiply that first, and then we're going to minus E3 and press enter. Okay, now if you click here, you can also see the formula on the formula bar, so you can kind of check it. So D6, the product of D6 and C6, or C3, minus E3. Okay, and that was what my formula, so equals parentheses D6 times C3, close parentheses, minus E3. Okay, subtract the total spent in January from March. So equals, subtract the total in January from March. So we're going to do the total for March first, subtract that by the total in January. So we get a negative 1190. The product, so product is multiply, so equals D3 and E5. Enter. The next one, number 9. Add cells C4 and D5 and then divide by C5. So this is where we have to do order of operations again. I'm going to say that if we didn't do the parentheses here, you would have still got the answer. And you might still get the answer here correctly if you don't use the parentheses. But I'm positive, like on number 11, if you don't use the parentheses, you won't get them right. So that's why I say it's always just better to do them in the first place. So you don't have to worry about is it right or is it wrong. So first we need to add, put our equal sign. we're going to open up parentheses and we're going to add C4 and D5 together. So C4 plus D5, close parentheses, and then divide by C5. And then press enter. So you get 597. Number 10, find the average of cells C7 through E7. So this is not C7 and A7, it's C7 through E7. So C, D, and E. So it's finding the average. So in order to find the average, you have to press your equal sign. You have to add them all together. So add C7 plus D7 plus E7 together, close my parentheses, and then divide it by the number that I have, which is 3. So you get 172. And then the last one, add the products of cells C5 and E3 to the product of C4 and E6. So once again, a little bit more parentheses. So we're going to press the equal sign, open parentheses, and do C5. Add the products. Okay, so this is the product. So it says add the product. So we need to multiply E3. So it's the product of C5 and E3, and we're going to add it to the product of, can't see my thing. Just going to press enter right quick. Oh, C4 and E6 because I couldn't see it. Okay, plus E6 times C4. Now I gotta make sure I go back in here and add my parentheses. So we are adding, so I'm gonna press enter really fast, and then I'm just gonna click on this and just double check to make sure I have it right. So we have the product of C5 and E3, C5, E3, the product of C4 and E6, I got them backwards, but it's no big deal. And then we added them together, so we have that plus symbol. So that's how I know we got it right. Then I'm just, seeing if you click anywhere, you add something to it, so make sure you don't do that. If not, make sure you erase it and then press return. Okay, so you should get the same numbers as I do. Now, I will check to make sure that you didn't just copy these numbers. If you hit the Control tilde button, if you notice, all my numbers have now changed to the formulas that you typed in. And this is how I'm going to check to make sure that you didn't just copy them. Because let's say that I'm going to delete this and actually type in 133.50. If I do the Control tilde, this is how I know that this was typed in, because I no longer have a formula, but I have a number. So if I do the Control tilde and I don't see any formulas and I just see numbers, you get a 0, because that's how I know that you copied instead of actually doing the formula. Now, if you do know Excel, you do know that there is a better way of doing some of these, such as a function, but this is all about formulas, so make sure you don't use a function if you know how to do this. Once you're done, turn it in.